As the streets of Prayagraj resonate with the sights and chants of a religious spectacle like no other, every other brand, from Eveready torches to Adani golf carts to Amazon beds to Campa ashrams, is at the Mahakumbh Mela. Many are calling the Mahakumbh the Super Bowl of India for Consumer Connect, and perhaps on point. The numbers are staggering: 400 million devotees, 98 special trains, 2,000 boats, and over a lakh temporary tents. The 6 week spiritual extravaganza, the biggest congregation of humanity, is expected to rake in a record revenue of anywhere between 2 to 4 lakh crore rupees for the UP government. From ash smeared sadhus to A-lister celebs to CEOs to tier 2 and 3 town devotees, they're all captive consumers. And well, the Shahi Snans or holy dips in the sacred waters aren't just all over town. They're trending on Instagram too. But if it's the Mahakumbh or the festival of the sacred pitcher now, last year it was the Ram Mandir consecration which had celebs posting been there, done that kind of selfies on Instagram, making it cool to be seen at temples. Some 5 lakh devotees had turned up in Ayodhya on day one alone. So what is it about spirituality that's got marketers gushing? It's Friday, the 17th of January. I'm your host, Ratna Bhushan from the Economic Times, and you're listening to The Morning Brief. For this episode, I've invited Shubhadeep Banerjee, Chief Digital Marketing Officer at ITC Limited, among India's largest consumer companies with a sprawling number of brands. I also have with me Sandeep Goyal, Chairman of Ad Agency Rediffusion and columnist, someone with a wealth of experience in corporate marketing and advertising. And to understand the travel trends around Kumbh, my colleague Anirban Chaudhary spoke to Manan Bajoria, Vice President, Growth Marketing at travel portal Ixigo. The Mahakumbh, which happens every 12 years, and the Kumbh every 3 years, is seeing branding on banners, boats, arches, and gates. There are snan zones, changing rooms, luxury tents, and watchtowers on offer. What is it about marketers and the spiritual surge? Shubhadeep, I'd like to start with you. ITC is doing a variety of brand activation and also amplifying the same on social media. What makes Kumbh so attractive for brands?
So, Ratna, actually, as ITC, we believe there are many pillars around which we build the business. One of the pillars is about culture centric marketing. Let me elaborate a bit about this aspect. So, there are cultures and there are different subcultures. So, when I say that, culture are not only our traditional culture codes, which have made us the way we are, but it's also connected heavily to, because we are in such a big way into food and beverage business, heavily linked back to the way we consume food or the kind of conversations that work well. So, hence, the need to participate not only in melas like the ones that we are talking here, but also in festivities. Let's say, for example, when Sunrise wanted to expand its business from Bengal to Bihar. So, it was important to understand the food culture code of Bihar, whether the champaran meat or whether how the chokha is made or kind of garam masala that is used. And the garam masala that's used there is very different from the one that we saw in Maharashtra or the tenga in let's say Northeast or the aromatic or the smoked aromas in their food in Northeast or the posto and shorshe combination. So you go on and on around the food codes that come directly from the culture code of that particular geography. So, in continuation with that, we felt that it's important for us to also hence participate in Kumbh Mela, like we did in Ayodhya a year back. And we keep doing that. So, it's basis one of the large strategic pillars of the business.
Very interesting that you say that, Shubhadeep. This brings me to my next question. This year it's Kumbh, last year it was Ayodhya, and you did mention so many other examples, Rath Yatra. So you did touch upon, these being large, events for consumer connect, but there's increasing traction for marketing at spiritual events, which was not the case earlier. So what's changed?
So again, I would not like to typify it as a spiritual space. It's about celebrating certain traditional culture codes of that particular geography. But I think the larger meaning system lies in what does it tell us about that particular geography and the culture of that geography, and how can a brand participate there, not force fitted, by the way, but seamlessly. Say, for example, Ratna, UP, right?
Okay.
One of the culture codes of UP is, of course, there is a very strong masculinity code of that geography. But you know what the evolving code around there is about women empowerment. So the way they are evolving now, so a brand like Ashirwad, for example, is participating there on a larger meaning, saying "Raho char kadam aage." So it has
Okay.
nothing to do with Ayodhya. It has nothing to do with, Rath Yatra. But again, another festival, which is
Right.
cricket or IPL. So women's cricket, and how from ground level onwards, little girls as a brand Ashirwad would like to see, enable, inspire, nurture them to remain ahead, remain char kadam aage. Hence, I'm saying, it so happens that we connected back to spiritualism and religion and stuff like that. But it's the larger underlying culture codes and the evolving culture codes of the geography, which, as a marketeer, as a brand who wants to consistently be in touch and resonate with the consumers, those brands need to be aware of it and accordingly take their next set of actions so that we stay relevant, we understand our consumers, we so the another strong pillar of consumer centricity from where culture centric marketing arises gets strengthened.
Absolutely. So that interesting point you made there about consumer connect and resonating with the consumer. So coming back to Kumbh, some are calling it the Super Bowl of India for consumer marketing. I was reading on social media. So would you agree? Because it's the largest congregation on earth and all of that. So
Super Bowl is an analogy. I mean, few years back, IPL was the Super Bowl for brands, and that's
right,
how we used to always talk about it. But what is the larger thing that we are telling here? We are saying that consumers need we need to draw consumers' attention. We need to resonate with them. We need to be relevant. All these truths, universal truths, which are there. So, in this mass of 6 crore, 7 crore people who are walking in, and there are many brands there, what do you do to again ensure that you are resonating with that consumer well? But the larger idea is that how do you draw the attention of those people and meaningfully, not just because you want to draw their attention, meaningfully have a differentiated approach, a very distinctive set of activities that you do, to ensure that your brand and this event and the culture code of this geography, they're all in sync. So that's why it needs a lot of thinking, a lot of creative tech. Now tech is enabling you to do all of that, right, as well. But
right.
how is the brand heavily linked? So let me give you one of the brands which is from ITC's portfolio. Let's say Bingo, UP and food. Food outside home offers a sense of liberation in an otherwise a very straight-jacketed cultural scenario. So when you see that, what we've called the Bingo space that we've created in Maha, we've called
Mhm.
that Bhaukal Lok. And the brand Tere Mere is the face of Bingo which is participating here. Bingo Tere Mere, if you read its culture code of this brand, it is about connecting with the consumers at their roots and connecting with the consumers in a fashion where the brand code of Bingo is still alive. And because you're traditionally connected back to the roots, the kind of music, the kind of comedy that evokes and is all about rooted. So in this space, these stalls that we have created for Bingo, we are calling it the UP Wala Jalwa. And people can come here and they can participate. We are also physically creating content, being there at the Kumbh Mela, which is being reutilized to take it to millions of consumers who could not come and attended it at Kumbh.
Absolutely, a lot of work there going out there. So, Shubhadeep, what kind of returns do you expect for all this in terms of ROIs?
So Ratna, I don't think we should really look at these from those short term. Okay, I did some investment recently, and I want to see a sales growth attributable to this, or a market share delta, or a penetration delta. These are about you trying to be with your consumers in the frame of mind that they are in, resonating with them, participating in their brand world, in their world through your brand world, right? So these are all long term, mid term investments the brand does and continuously does. It cannot be that, if it's not a central pillar of your brand strategy and your business strategy, then just for the sake of a tick mark, 6 crore, 10 crore people are coming, hence I need to be there. Yes, there are lots of people, there are a lot of footfall. Maybe that's also a reason why you should be there. But I think one needs to think beyond and see whether this is something that you want to repeat again and again. Is it something that you believe in? Is it something that you will be doing at every part of this country going forward? Is there templatization? Is there a way of working for you? Is this what the brand wants to do? Is what the brand and the business believes in? So I think that's how I would like to put it, Shraddha.
What about marketing budgets for such events? Are they permanent fixtures for companies now? I'm talking about spiritual tourism because there are many analyst reports also which have projected how spiritual tourism is really set for exponential growth in India. And of course, this Kumbh is not comparable to the previous Kumbhs. Then we saw what happened in
Yeah.
Ayodhya and all of that.
So Ratna, so we are almost now in part of our fag end of this last quarter of this last financial year, current financial year, and we'll get into planning for the next. So whenever we do our budgeting, like various heads, this is also an area of where we definitely budget for some money. Because again, I'll probably reiterate the same point that we believe in that culture centric marketing, and hence it becomes an important part, and it does not limit ourselves, Ratna, to the kind of consumer activation or the digital content that you're creating and promoting, or the use of creative tech, etc., etc. It goes way beyond. It's also about the larger town, the feeder towns. How are you making your products visible, available, the kind of outdoor media that you are effectively trying to utilize? So it's a combination of multiple. It becomes an integrated approach that you take. But it is just not about quantum, Ratna. Probably I'm repeating myself multiple times here, but it's just not about that there is a huge congregation of people alone. It's just not that.
So, how do you rise above the clutter?
This question actually does not limit to just this event and what you do there and stuff like that, but it goes way beyond. Every piece of content that you create today has to pass through this filter that will the thumb stop? Will it draw attention? Will I be able to deliver my message? Or am I going through a very rapid decay here? So these are very, very, I think, important things that we need to consider. As far as Kumbh is concerned, even the little things that you will do, no, you need to think through that what of this in your checklist is this passing through the food culture code of the geography? Is it passing through the traditional culture code of the geography? Are we seeing certain emergent codes in what we are doing? Are we doing it in such a fashion that people are going to get attracted? Is there a bit of tech and a creative tech attached to it which is going to draw your attention there? So we need to think from those perspectives when we design the activation and things like that.
My last question, Shubhadeep, is that the analyst reports. Jeffries also wrote in a recent report that religion is the biggest segment of tourism in India, and that spiritual tourism can create a meaningfully large economic impact. I would like your views on this.
Yeah, and I have read that article that you're referring to. We feel experiences is what people of India see. If there are unique experiences in such religious spaces. Definitely, it's, and we are seeing, right? People think that there are some very, very interesting. In fact, I want to go and experience this Mahakumbh this year. It's an experience that I think I will remember, and there will be memories for me for a very, very long period of time. So, if the brand is part of such experiences, it's great. But I would rather add a layer to this, saying that, experiences are not only in these spiritual places. Congregation of tourists are not only in these spiritual places. Today, we being in the hospitality business, there is a lot more that we see, read, and try to understand. Where adventure tourism to going to very unique places, offbeat places, there are experiences which define people differently. So, yeah, brands need to be present, whether it's the hot bowl of EP noodle in the Himalayas or the chart in Mahakumbh. It's our job to create such memories.
While devotees take their holy dips in the Triveni Sangam or the confluence of the Ganga, Yamuna, and the mythical Saraswati for what is believed to be spiritual liberation, marketers are brimming with innovation. But is it bang for buck? Sandeep Goyal, chairman of ad agency Rediffusion, tells me what gives. Sandeep, thank you for making time from your busy schedule. It's so nice to have you in the morning brief.
Thank you, Ratna. Thank you for having me on the show.
Okay, so like we all know, Kumbh is the flavor of the season, or maybe the flavor of the year. In seeing
Yes,
the
are you
numbers,
going there?
no, no, I'm too scared to go. Although I want to, but I don't know if I'll come back in
I've
one
also
piece.
been thinking about it. I think it's a good idea to make the trip.
Yeah, yeah, I hope you go. Please go and please then narrate the real time incidents.
Yeah, we'll give it a bash here. I'm very since I've been trying to coax my wife that maybe we should make a trip.
So, Sandeep, is being at Kumbh now an essential tick in the box for marketers?
So for most brand practitioners, you do things at Kumbh because it'll look very good at the next global board meeting.
Okay.
So everybody is creating new innovations, trying to do bigger things, spend more money so that they can go to that global board meeting and talk about the huge Kumbh Mela and how their brand was kind of so visible or dominated the Kumbh with some new ideas. So I think it's gone beyond just being, a platform for brands or a laboratory for new ideas. It's become a spot where you create innovations that you can brag about. For example, Levers did this big one about the roti reminder, and they,
Correct.
heat stamped those rotis, and then some years later, because they couldn't repeat the idea, they went and put it onto thalis and so on and so forth. The question I ask you is, if it was such a fantastic idea, why was it not repeated ever anywhere again?
Right.
So the point is the shelf life of most of these ideas is the Kumbh because a lot of quote unquote help goes into viralizing those ideas, getting a lot of good PR, and then they're all put into the deep freeze. So while there may be some noble intention, the fact that a State Bank of India runs, for example, a bank from 8 o'clock in the morning to 10 in the night, and then ICICI has a ATM bus running all over. I think that is practical stuff that pilgrims can use. But a lot
Right.
of the other stuff is actually a lot of window dressing.
Now, there are all kinds of estimates that are being talked about. There are some estimates that there is 3,000 crore worth of advertising and marketing, which is happening at Kumbh alone. So, you said, yes, it is a lot of window dressing, but why is that window dressing so important for marketers, for branding now?
So you must understand a lot of these companies are listed companies. One, two. Most of these companies making a lot of noise there are multinational companies. So you have this beautiful film you put together, and then at the next analyst meet, you put it, before all of them, and then you have a lot of applause and so on and so forth. So a lot of stuff that is being done is actually being done to look good, yeah. I don't think there is any great amount of piety or a great amount of reverence or devotion that is going into thinking about pilgrims who are going to the Kumbh Mela. Ideally, the Kumbh should have been a fantastic place for test marketing and for sampling. Forget everything else. You got say a crore people coming in every day, and you could actually use that as a great test bed for test marketing. You got a new product, you got a new flavor, you got a new offering. You could test it out and do it with large numbers in a very, very, very short window of time, and therefore get responses in a day or two or in a week, which would otherwise take you months to do. Similarly with sampling, I mean, you got a new product and you want to sample it out. I mean, it's the toughest thing these days to do sampling. And you could use the Kumbh to do that. But the fact of the matter is, I don't think any brand is actually doing that. They're just using the Kumbh to demonstrate innovation. So
Right.
that opportunity of using the Kumbh as a great laboratory for ideas is actually getting lost.
Okay, very, very important and significant points there. But Sandeep, it's not just Kumbh. We saw what happened at the Ayodhya consecration last year. We had all these celebs posting selfies on Instagram, like been there, done that. And, a lot of youngsters were posting selfies. They've been posting selfies on outside Akshardham. And also, obviously, these are top draws for brands. What do you have to say about this?
Yeah, this is again going back, circling back to the same thought of viralability. Yeah, everybody wants everything to be viralized. So when you do your selfies or you do any of those posts, whether it is at Yodhya or whether it is at the Kumbh, the central thought really is that I'm going to use this as a platform for me to look good and to be famous. So equally applicable when it comes to brands, equally applicable when it comes to individuals.
How much more can these marketing spends go up to sort of look good and tick the box and bragging rights, like you very appropriately called it?
My view, Ratna, is that there are prices being quoted and there are prices being paid. So you must be very clear that if everybody claims that so much of money is being spent, I am not always sure whether the money is actually the numbers that are being talked about. I
Okay.
was talking, for example, to a brand. They said that they wanted to put up these water ambulances. And that brand manager was telling me, he said, I started at X. By the time I closed the deal, which was just, 4 or 5 days before the Kumbh started, the
Mhm.
number was down to one fourth of X because it's all a question of demand and supply. Similarly, I mean, there are people who invested a lot of money into changing rooms. So, like some years ago, I don't know, last Kumbh or year before, Wellspun went into hyperdrive on changing rooms. We got these quick dry towels which they were trying to, show at the Kumbh. Similarly,
Mhm.
most of the brands doing, shampoos or doing soaps or whatever are now jazzing up these changing rooms. So you don't only have a changing room, but you also have a hair dryer and maybe you can get a massage and so on and so forth. The
Right.
point is, if you created that inventory and if it does not sell, then the shelf life is so limited that whoever is selling it has no choice but to go for a much, much lesser value. So the 3,000 crores that being touted about may be true, may really not be true.
One massive aspect of this trend is spiritual travel and tourism. My colleague Anirban Chaudhary spoke to Manan Bajoria of Ixigo about the surge in travel for the Mahakumbh.
I think we have seen a tremendous response for across flights, trains, and buses to Prayagraj and nearby cities. For example, flight bookings to Prayagraj have increased almost 162% year on year. And even the nearby airports like Varanasi and Lucknow, we are seeing 127% and a 42% growth. And similarly, on the train side, the year on year growth is trending at almost 187% for Prayagraj bookings. And most of the and sectors which have seen the highest growth are sectors like Mumbai to Prayagraj, Kanpur to Prayagraj, Varanasi to Prayagraj, Hyderabad to Prayagraj is like almost 700% growth. Even on the buses side, there's a 220% increase on buses to Prayagraj. So, like the overall, the response has been tremendous. So, we have launched a Mahakumbh microsite across our apps and website, which basically gives the devotees and travelers all the essential information that they need, right, for their journey to Kumbh.
So, because of all this demand, Manan, has there been a spike in airfares as well?
Yeah, so one thing to notice, Prayagraj is now connected to over 20 cities in India versus only during the last Mahakumbh, it was only Delhi to Prayagraj. That was just a single city connection. But despite a large number of flights, given that the demand has surpassed the capacity. We are seeing slightly higher airfares year on year. Typically, if you plan 30 days in advance, you can get tickets in the range of 7 to 10,000 rupees from all the metro cities. However, certain routes like Bhopal to Prayagraj even go higher till 15,000, 16,000 because there's just too much demand. Also, for specific dates, which are auspicious bathing dates, the fares are trending very high and are going as high as 20,000 also.
And Manan, what about accommodation?
What we are seeing is a lot more interest in the tent inventory at the Mahakumbh site. So there are a lot of brands which have now come and have different kind of tents, right? So you have tent options ranging from as low as 5,000 rupees a night to going as high as 50,000 rupees per night, which are like proper mud house tents with AC and all the
Right.
furnishings.
Glamping
So we
at
are seeing,
home.
yeah. So we are seeing a
Right.
lot of uptake on that. But yeah, in general, given that there's just so many people who are going to Prayagraj and staying at Prayagraj, right? So overall, the accommodation prices and tariffs have definitely gone up during this period.
As the marketing playbook unfolds on the riverbanks of Prayagraj, here are some more numbers. Tirupati attracted over 25 million devotees last year, while Vaishno Devi drew in more than 8 million devotees. Amritsar's Golden Temple is known to attract up to 20,000 visitors per day and goes up to 2 lakh on festivals such as Guru Purab. Back in 2017, the UNESCO called the Mahakumbh an intangible cultural heritage of humanity. Since then, religious fervor has only grown massively in India and continues to. Till next time, then, we're signing off and hope you enjoyed listening to this episode. And if I may say so, see you at the pilgrimages. You've been listening to The Morning Brief, and I'm your host, Ratna Bhushan. This episode was produced by Vinay Joshi, sound editor, Rajas Nayak, executive producer, Anirban Chaudhary. The Morning Brief drops every Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday. Do tune into ET Play for all audio content, including The Morning Brief. You can listen to our podcast on all major podcast streaming platforms. Thank you for listening and have a nice day ahead. All external sound clips used in this episode belong to their respective owners. Credits are mentioned in the description.